This video covers how to do a trend over time by groups, and this is in the Describe tab. So in the Describe tab, scroll down and go to the section below that reads Trend over time by groups. So what this will let us do is let us see how the distribution changes over time. So we'll select an outcome, inpatient beds utilization, select the group factor, which is state. We're going to look at the 50 states. We can look at specific groups, but we'll come back to that later. We'll select a time indicator, which is month. We can look at time increments. Our data comes to us as monthly data per month, but we can change that to quarter, and by just changing this from 1 to 3. We'll come back to that later. We can select the line color. We have our 50 plus options, but we'll go with purple. We can set a target. We're going to use a value of 0.7 for now. We can move the legend location. We'll leave it at top left, but we can put it at different spots on the bottom, to the right, or to the left, as well as center. We can set the seed group or group name randomness. We'll come back to that later, and we'll run the trend in a second. In number 11, we can adjust the play speed. 1000 equals 1 second. The default is 500. So we're going to change that to 750. It's an animation, so that animation moves at less than 1 second per frame. And before we play the time trend, we can see the x-axis limit, the lower and upper limit, as well as the lower and upper y limits. We're going to change, since the x-axis really only goes to a range of 0 to 1, we're going to leave it at 1. So let's play the time trend. We're going to scroll down to where the plot will show. Hit the play button. Actually, before we do that, we need to click the run trend, clicking yes on that. Now we can see the plot area, and we're at the first time point where there's a lot of variation, a lot of spread in that distribution. So let's hit play. And so we see that over time, beds across the US are being utilized more, and we're seeing that across all the states. In the beginning it was spread, but now we're seeing over time for COVID more and more beds were being utilized. And we can see that the starting pooled mean, that means the mean of each state was used to calculate that pooled mean. It started at a value of 0.461, which represents this first green line, solid green line, and the dashed green line to the right of it represents that ending pooled mean of 0.738. So if we felt that 70% was a critical value of our inpatient bed utilization, we would see that maybe most states exceeded that by this last time period. So underneath this purple line represents each state, and so on the density means how much concentration there is within that value range. So we see up top, we see NY. So that density, this NY being up top, doesn't really mean too much. It's more of what's on the x-axis that's important to us. These state state values were randomly assigned to these spots. So that's what this set seed group name randomness means. If we have a state that we're most interested in that we can't really read, maybe it's one of these two states on the right, we can jumble these values, and so we can get a better read on, I guess it was Massachusetts on this side, and we can just in step 9 increase or decrease that number to find where's the point where we can read those values. And we see Maryland and Florida, South Carolina, Georgia. So maybe this gives us an easier read, and we modify it that way. And so but if we're really interested in some key states, we can go up to step 3. Maybe we're most interested in California, Florida, and we'll get to New York and Texas, and this would represent the states with the 4 states with the most cases. So let's play this again. And we see New York, California, Texas towards the front. Over time, we see Florida has caught up and surpassed California and New York, and now Texas is in the second spot. These purple lines on the bottom are called rug marks. So below each state is a rug mark that indicates that state. So these are the different options of looking at trend over time. In the 95% confidence interval tab, there is a similar plot that plots the lines over each month that pairs well with this. But this is how to look at trends over time by groups. And if you want those group values for each month, you'll see them in this output below. So as each month changes here, we can see those values changing below. So we can get those means for each of the states. And if you wanted to see how many were above that target, for example, if you wanted to see how many were above that critical value of 0.7 at the last time point, you'd see it's 72.5% or 0.725. The pulled mean at that point is 0.73, and the pulled median is 0.75. So this is how you look at trend over time by groups, graphing it and getting the results along the way. And this can be done in the Describe tab.